I'm Bob Spinozzi.
I'm Geoff Hall.
Another edition of Where in Westford, project of the Westford Historical Society. Geoff, you were telling me that you were just randomly asking lifelong residents of Westford, tell me where Sugarloaf Hill is. Do you know where Sugarloaf Hill is? No one knew where Sugarloaf Hill was.
If you're from Graniteville and you grew up in Graniteville, do you know or have you ever heard of Sugarloaf Hill? I hadn't. Johnny Haley, whose family's been there since the 1860s, he'd never heard of it. Okay? Mickey Crocker, okay, who I spoke to also, because she spent some time ago, had never heard of Sugarloaf Hill. And the reason I came across this is because Marilyn Day, actually, and Marilyn Day is amazing with her research. And what I wanted to do was something on the hill we call the bandstand. Bob, I'm going to show you this picture. The Methodist Church in Graniteville, okay, you can see the church.
Sure.
See that little hill in back of it?
Yep.
Okay, see that white thing that's on the top of it?
Yes, I do.
That's the bandstand. We always call the hill the bandstand. But no one knew why, if there was ever a bandstand up there, because none of us had ever done the research. So here is the original bandstand. If you took a look at the lithograph that was done in 1886, it shows you a little bit, and that would be that bandstand, but there was a huge flagpole coming out of it, and you can detect it. We were wondering what it was. Well, it tells you a little bit more about it, Bob, okay? I'll read you a couple of articles that have since, and this is from June of 1907. The bandstand, which was situated on Sugarloaf Hill for many years and which has been an eyesore to the village people for several months, has been torn down, as the boys attempted to make a bonfire of it last 4th of July. So that would have been 4th of July in 1906. The committee in charge thought it was best to remove the temptation by getting it out of the way as the 4th was running around. And apparently that was a thing back then, to do things like that on the 4th of July. But as I said, it was the bandstand. The question was, who came to these outings? Was it the people who worked the mills, and how often did they have it? And apparently it wasn't used that much. Then, Bob, the Westford Wardsman, the Wardsman in December of 1933, a new bandstand is fast assuming shape on Sugarloaf Hill, and has been completed, will present an attractive appearance. It is intended to have the roof of the pergola type, with steps leading directly from the outside, which is entirely different from the original stand that was situated in the same site several years ago, okay? The stand will be surmounted by a flagpole, but this will not be as tall. Like I said, this huge one they had in 1886. And this was part of the Works Progress Administration, Bob, I guess.
The ERA, it was part of the ERA project. ERA, Emergency Relief?
Yeah, well, one of the projects giving government money, putting people to work down during the 1930s.
This is when unemployment, we've read many times, was probably around 25% anyway.
25%. That's one out of every 4 people out of work. And, like I said, my family had been in Graniteville for years. My dad passed away years ago, but I'm wondering if I ever had said to him, do you know where Sugarloaf Hill is? And, whether he would have or not, I don't know.
But you also have a record, you know Sugarloaf Hill because you were sledding down there.
I knew it as the bandstand, Bob.
Okay.
I never knew it as Sugarloaf Hill. Never knew it. And here, an article from 1935, May 30th, Graniteville, the Abbott Worcester Company maintains a ballpark for the various teams of the village, with a recent ERA project. You're right, it was the ERA project. And it's for making a larger playground for the Sergeant School. I went to the Sergeant School. I remember that playground. That playground is now what houses senior housing, okay, right beside the Sergeant School that was built in the 1980s. I was a member of that advisory committee, actually, at the time. And rebuilding the bandstand on Sugarloaf Hill, which overlooked the Stony Brook. Westford Woodsman, 4th of April 1936, a fire of undetermined origin completely destroyed the bandstand on Sugarloaf Hill near the M.E. Methodist Church shortly after 2 o'clock. The fire had made such headway before it was discovered. When the firemen arrived, played a couple of hose lines on the blaze, it was soon extinguished. The bandstand was built as part of an ERA project. So there's been a few bandstands on that hill. By the 1950s, when we got there, we called the hill the bandstand. At the top of the hill, Bob, there was you could see the granite slabs. I never knew. We figured, well, if there was a bandstand, it must have been there. And sure enough, that's where the original bandstand was that you see in those early photographs. In 1998, the Mill Pond Restoration Committee, along with the community service team from Westford Academy, did a major renovation of the Mill Pond area. A gazebo was built. The gazebo, by the way, is over in the across from the Methodist Church. We also did the other area of the pond where there was an old boathouse that was used by the sergeants and was falling down at the time. And the Sousa family owned it and come and helped us take that down. And all that area has been cleaned. If you get on past there, you see the granite benches that were helped finance the work that was done there. And the project was called Bond with the Pond at the time, and really, beautified the area and really cleaned up the area. As a matter of fact, if you get on there during the summer, Bob, you might see a guy out there mowing the lawn on that side.
Does he look like you?
He's similar, yeah. He's been doing it for about 25 years now. But he loves doing it. It's a community service.
Of course, we're talking about yours truly.
It's a community service that I enjoy doing because it was part of the organization that Diane Haley started back in '98 that worked to rebuild the pond there, called Graniteville Pride. And being a Graniteville guy, growing up, I take pride in Graniteville, so I do that and a few other things down there. But that's I was taken away when Marilyn sent me these things on Sugarloaf Hill. I'm saying, where the heck is it?
Well, now we're going to have viewers going to have Sugarloaf Hill on the tip of their tongue.
On the tip of their tongue. So, listen, thanks for tuning in to learn about Sugarloaf Hill, like I learned about Sugarloaf Hill. Bob, thanks for being here with me.
Thank you, sir.